these things can end in tragedy. So parents really need to sit down, have conversations, talk to your kid about this situation, about the potential consequences of doing actions that teenagers do.
Yeah, what more can parents say, though? A lot of times when you're a teenager, the last people you want to hear from are the adults in your life, like the parents and the teachers.
That's true. That's very true. So it's got to start young. We have to get back around the dinner table, with our children at a young age, raise them the right way, raise them with values, have deep, meaningful conversations with them so that we prepare them when they reach adolescence, to be better decision makers.
Yeah, and also maybe raise them with self-confidence. I mean, build up your kids so that they don't follow the crowd and they feel like they can be their own individual.
I'm so glad you said that, because I talk about that all the time. We hear anti-bullying, anti-this, anti-so-and-so. What if we teach pro-confidence? Now, a kid that is confident, truly confident, not an easy task, it becomes relatively immune, to have to do what everybody else does, getting involved with, doing drugs and things like of that nature, or drinking. But it's really, really important thing. It's hard to drive that message, but we have to lead by example.
Yeah, and there are just so many of these challenges out there, these social media things. Like, there's one called the Skull Breaker Challenge, the Blackout Challenge, where people were choking other kids to get them to pass out, the Benadryl Challenge, remember the Tide Pod thing? Oh, like every day it's something new, and that's part of the problem because it's hard for parents to keep up with it all.
Yeah, and the kids they're spending their lives in front of these devices. I'm doing a lecture later this morning, for high school students about, I've been talking about screen time, mental health for many years. And but interestingly, I remember being on here years ago talking about that Tide Pod challenge. I mean, think about that. Think about what a teenager that they're actually going to ingest something that can kill them.
I know, but that's the way of the world right now. So it's why it's so important to have discussions like this. Also, incredibly disturbing news out of the FBI yesterday. They announced that they have arrested 205 people tied to this online predator network called 764. These are sick adults who befriend kids online and then persuade them to give them graphic porn, videos of them cutting themselves, hurting themselves, even committing suicide. Here is Attorney General Pam Bondi on this. Watch.
Parents need to monitor what your kids are doing on the internet. Your kids have no right to privacy on the internet. Children are getting recruited on the internet from being on games, social media, any kind of social media platform. They think they're talking to other children, and they're not. They're talking to monsters often.
It's hard to believe that something as sick as this exists, but it does.
That's the problem with the landscape of the wide open World Wide Web, right? And, when we're talking about monitoring, I'm a big advocate of preventing. Like, we have to delay. I don't know if we need legislation or whatever, but it's difficult to monitor. We have to delay and try to prevent our kids, particularly before adolescence and going into adolescence, from having any form of access to this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have this beautiful little baby, and you can completely control everything that they're doing, and you want what's best for them. Yeah. And then you have to give them up to the world and just pray. So, Tom, thank you so much for joining us. There are things that every parent, though, can do to hopefully achieve that great success. You got to be there. That's right. Tom, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.